First, let me start off telling my story and where I came from. I was born and raised on the east side of Detroit. When I was younger, I had a whole bunch of difficult issues and things like that that made it very difficult to succeed in life. Like, for instance, I went to prison when I was 17 years old for armed robbery. But in prison for me was more of an intervention. It was a way for me to change my life. I got my GED, got my education in prison, but when I got out, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do the right thing. I ended up getting married. Then had a son, and it turns out that my wife at the time was addicted to drugs. She was addicted to heroin, and she left me and my son on our own. But I didn't want to be the type of person to say that, tell my son to do something great with his life, do something good with his life. I wanted to show him. I wanted to be an example. So I used education as a catalyst for that. I went to school here in Detroit to Wayne State University, and in spite of all my issues of growing up, my trials and everything else like that, when I graduated from Wayne State University, I was my class valedictorian. I was nominated as the top business student. I was given an award as to label me as one of the top business students in Michigan. And then in 2010, I got my MBA. But in spite of all of my triumphs and in spite of all of my accolades, it was very difficult for me to get a job. People wouldn't hire me. As soon as they seen that I had a criminal background, they would show me to the right. But and meeting Apostle Jackson, he gave me a chance where other people wouldn't give me a chance. At the time I was homeless. I was living in my car. My trunk was my refrigerator. I was really, really struggling. I lost custody of my son, O'Shea. Life was on a downturn. I was suicidal and everything else. But when I met Apostle, it was like an opportunity. He gave me a chance. He hired me into the Impact Network. And through that, I learned how to redirect my energy. I learned how to do production. I learned how to edit. And now, since then, my abilities and my talents have grown tremendously. I'm now direct. I produce. I'm screenwrite. I've written several books. My life is on the upturn, all because of my interaction and experience of meeting Apostle Wayne T. Jackson. He is a giver. I remember one particular time. Now I'm a strong-willed individual, and while I was going to church, a lot of people didn't know that I was living in a situation like in the top of an attic of a house that didn't have any heat, didn't have any energy. The lights would work sometimes, the lights didn't work, and it was wintertime. So I remember I used to have to sleep with layers and layers of covers on top of me, with layers of clothes and my coat, just so I wouldn't freeze to death in this attic. And I never told anybody of my struggles. But one day, I did explain that to Apostle's sons, Wayne Jr. And it came about where Wayne Jr. told his father immediately, not the month later, not 2 weeks later, not a year later, but immediately, as soon as Apostle Jackson learned of my situation, he snatched me from that place, put me into an apartment, and paid my first security deposit, paid my first month rent, and filled my refrigerator with food. That's the kind of person that Apostle is. He doesn't boast about what he does, but he just constantly goes, and gives to people. There's another situation where I was at a barbershop, and I think I had a Great Faith Ministries tank top on because I work with the studio. And a guy said, "Oh, you go to Great Faith?" Yeah, I remember one time me and my family was at a furniture place in Detroit. And he's like, "Yeah, Apostle came in, and then we didn't. Me and my family, we didn't have the money to buy mattresses, but Apostle, he just bought all my whole family mattresses." And so those are kind of stories that constantly you hear when dealing with Apostle. You hear about his heart, you hear about his character, you hear about his fabric, his love and consideration, and that's who he really is.